What does it mean to believe in oneself? Reb Hillel Parich is a guy in a Kaddish from the biggest maskilim in Chabad, Tzaddik Yisrael Olam. He said there's a person who once heard a nigun, he heard a song. And this song was so mesmerizing, it was so magnificent, that it was able to help him for the time that he was hearing it. It was able to help him to forget all of his daigas, all of his worries, all of his sorrows. That there were people that he loved that were no longer alive and he was broken. That he didn't have parnasa. That his cow wasn't giving any milk. That the children were not doing well.
Can you put the phone down and help me?
Could you hold 1 second?
Please?
Come on, give me a second. Give me a second.
For the time that he heard the nigun, while he was listening to the nigun, he was able to rise above all of that. But then, as it is in life, there's a famous poet who said that inspiration is inspiration, but then a person returns to the C minor of life. So he went back to his regular day-to-day life, and he couldn't remember the nigun. He couldn't remember the song. And he had the gewaltige Histoikekus. He wanted desperately to hear this nigun, because this nigun took him higher than life itself. So what did he do? After he tried for a while to remember the nigun, he was struggling, he couldn't remember it. So he began to speak to Bali Nagina. He began to chase after musicians. He would go to a chasna, there was a klezmer, he would go to ask, "You're a Bal Nigun? I don't know, maybe I can give a bar, something, but there was this nigun that I heard, and so on, maybe you know that." And he went to all these menagnim, and he couldn't find anybody that knew the nigun. So what did he do? The nigun left him, he couldn't remember it. But there was something inside, Epis was on the tip of his tongue. It was dangling somewhere in his mind, but he couldn't quite get that nigun, and he couldn't find anybody to play the nigun. He heard many nigunim, but each time that he heard it, he thought maybe that's it, but then it wasn't it. That was the marshal of Hillel Parich. And the nimshal is obvious. The nimshal is that when the neshama of a Jew was above in Shemayim, before the soul of a Jew descended into the goof, into this world, the neshama was experiencing ta'anug Eloi, unbelievable pleasure and delight, being in the presence of the Rabbanu Shalom in such a way, chavuka, dvuka, attached to the living God, and was immersed in that nigun of dveikis b'Hashem, of attachment to Hashem. But then the neshama is sent into this world, and the neshama meets up with Metzias, with reality in that world of C minor. And this world below is so different than the one above. And all he was left with was some sort of a vague recollection, a sense of feeling that there's something bigger, there's something greater, that there's a nigun that's engraved somehow in his being, that's woven into the fabric of his existence, but he can't get it, he can't recapture that nigun. So he spends the rest of his life. The Yid, the Jew, spends the rest of his life running around to other menagnim. Whether the Baal Menagin is the Yankees or the Baal Menagin is the Mets. Whether the Baal Menagin is work, or the Baal Menagin is true love and romance. Whatever the Baal Menagin is, the person runs around the rest of his life looking for Menagnim, for people who have something to offer. Something of substance to offer. And he listens to that Nigun. And he thinks maybe this is the Nigun. Maybe this is that which is going to give me that ahava, that love, that tanik, that pleasure, that delight, that feeling of das is das. This is it. This is the Nigun. And because of this search, this frantic search of a person in the world, he gets caught up in many, many sibuchim and complications, and our lives are filled with disappointments and with pain. And here Rabbi Isai is the beginning of davening, is the beginning of tefillah. This is the beginning of emunah ba'atzmai. And that part that's beyond my body, my nefesh, my ruach, and the essence of who I am. Beyond the street, beyond the school, beyond the house, deeper than all of that, I have a neshama that's davening every second.